Tonight, changes are coming to the U.S. military.
The era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now.
The Trump administration's message for top brass. Plus, the clock is ticking until a government shutdown takes effect.
I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing.
If the government shuts down, it's because Republicans have decided to shut the government down and hurt the American people.
As lawmakers play the blame game, will they be able to come together and make a deal before midnight? And
kids can get into these intense relationships that feel really intimate, forgetting that it's a robot.
why chatbots can pose potential danger for kids and teens. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The White House unveils sweeping changes to the military. Good evening in Washington, I'm Jenna Browder. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth declaring today Liberation Day for America's warriors. In front of hundreds of commanders at Quantico, Hegseth unveiled a new vision for the military, rolling out 10 new directives he says will build a tougher, stronger force. It's all part of the administration's goal of reshaping the nation's military. For more on this and other news from the White House, let's bring in our panel, national security correspondent Caitlin Burke and senior White House correspondent Kelly Wright. Both of you welcome. Caitlin, let's start with you. What can you tell us about the changes Secretary Hegseth announced today?
Jenna, the secretary said this speech was about people and culture. His administration has already done a lot of work, he calls it, weeding out liberal and woke policies. And now he says it's about making sure the right people are doing the jobs. And to do that, he says we need higher standards. Now, this is how he described it to the leaders gathered at Quantico.
Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. Suggestions that get our sons and daughters killed. When it comes to combat arms units, and there are many different stripes across our joint force, the era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now.
Now, Jenna, a lot of those new standards and directives that he mentioned focus on physical fitness and grooming. When it comes to physical fitness, he mentioned PT tests will now be returned to gender neutral or male standards of the 1990s. And he says that could weed some females out of jobs. He said everyone from newly enlisted to four-star generals will be expected to have their PT tests 2 times a year and meet the height and weight requirements. He specifically mentioned looking out over formations of, quote, fat troops, and said that that's unacceptable. He wants grooming standards to be focused on. No beards, no long hair, unless, he says, you are serving in the special forces. But he's also cracking down on anonymous complaints and said that he is ordering, quote, a review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, hazing, and bullying, because he says that it's not toxic to uphold the high standards that he's imposing. And he wants to empower leaders to, quote, enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. Jenna, he said that if people are not happy with the changes that are coming, then they should resign.
Caitlin, President Trump, he was also there today. He's faced some pushback about the deploying of the military to some American cities. Did he address that at all?
He did. He said that our inner cities are, quote, a big part of war now. He pointed to San Francisco, Portland, Chicago, where he says he'll be sending troops soon, and said the enemy is now within and they're harder to fight because they don't wear uniforms. But he did say that he had actually mentioned and pitched to Secretary Hegseth that the military should use these cities as, quote, training grounds. And he said that he's imposed some new policies surrounding rules of engagement when agents or troops go into these cities. He specifically brought up an example of ICE vehicles that were driving through that had rocks and bricks thrown at them. And he said that he has now given his agents, given these troops permission, not just to keep driving, but to get out of the car and do whatever it takes. He mentioned a policy he calls "they spit, we hit." And he said that he's also ordered training to begin for a new quick reaction force that would respond to civil disturbances in the future.
Okay. Meanwhile, we are in the 11th hour of the budget battle. Kelly, the government shuts down if lawmakers can't reach a deal before midnight. Bring us up to speed, Kelly, on where things stand there.
So it's as you said, by midnight tonight, we will likely have a government shutdown unless a miracle takes place between Republicans and Democrats and the president. They have to agree to disagree on issues that they can discuss later on. But the short term is getting this continuing resolution pushed through to keep the government going on until they can discuss some of the concerns that the Democrats have, which is about health care and concerns like that. So it's an us and them between the Democrats and Republicans, and they're leaving out the we, the people.
Yeah. Kelly, yesterday, President Trump, he laid out his vision for ending the war in Gaza. And in just the time we have left, you know, Israel has agreed to it. Hamas, we'll see. They're being pressured by all sides. What's the White House saying about that tonight?
The bottom line is that the president has given Hamas 4 days to actually accept or reject the peace plan that he's put together with the 20 points that he's envisioned for a peace plan for not only the people living in Gaza, the Palestinians, but also the Israelis, and bringing peace to the Middle East. If they don't do it within 4 days, accept or reject, the president has definitely given sanctions to Bibi Netanyahu to carry out the rest of what the Israeli Defense Forces wants to do, and that's totally get rid of Hamas.
Okay, we'll be watching. A busy day for the White House and the administration. Kelly and Caitlin, thank you. Well, turning now to the war in Ukraine, Vladimir Putin has ordered the largest draft in nearly a decade, with 135,000 men called up to serve this fall. It's part of his plan to expand Russia's military to a force of 1.5 million troops. And it comes as Russia continues to pound Ukrainian cities. For more on what it all means, we are joined by Michael O'Hanlon with the Brookings Institution. Michael, good to see you. What does this draft tell us, Michael, about Putin's military strategy? And do you think it signals that Russia could be struggling here to sustain its war effort?
Hi, Jenna. Well, first of all, just to give some perspective, that makes for a larger Russian military than we have in the United States, even though our population is 2.5 times that of Russia. And so this really reinforces that Russia is on war footing. I'm afraid that it does not necessarily show Russian weakness. I mean, you're right to ask the question, because every time Putin needs to issue another draft summons, he's acknowledging the war's going on. He's acknowledging Russian soldiers are dying, being hurt. But he's also built up such a mystique about this war, such a twisted version of reality in the way it plays in the Russian press, that Russia is somehow under attack and that this is a defensive war and they're saving the homeland almost World War II style. That I don't think he's politically vulnerable just because he's had to do this. And unfortunately, of course, his domestic critics have been largely muzzled or even killed off. So this is a man who, in his own mind, is trying to recreate the period of Catherine the Great, the Russian Empire of yesteryear. And he's prepared to go to some pretty great extremes to pursue that vision, thinking that Ukraine will crack first, or that American and Western political will to support Ukraine will crack first.
Yeah. Germany's chancellor, Michael, says Europe, and this is a quote, is not at war, but no longer at peace with Russia. What do you make of that statement, Michael? And how significant is it if European leaders are thinking about Russia in that way?
Well, Jenna, I think that reflects, of course, the frustration, not just with the length of the Ukraine war, but now these drone incursions into NATO airspace, and also the attempts by Russia to assassinate certain Western leaders. For example, I believe a major German military manufacturer was targeted several months ago, and there have been some Russian dissidents killed on West European soil over the last 10 to 15 years. So I think that's what gives rise to the German chancellor saying we're no longer really at peace with Russia the way they're behaving. And I think, you know, analytically, factually, he's correct. I don't know what good it does to say it. Maybe he's trying to get Putin's attention. Putin probably wants to get a little bit of a rise out of us collectively. And so I'm not sure it really tells you how to make the policy more effective, but I think the chancellor is correct.
Yeah. Michael, where does this all go from here? I mean, this certainly seems to be an escalation. Given your expertise, where do you think it goes now?
I think we all need to put more pressure on Vladimir Putin. That includes certainly Europeans, Chinese, and Indians, but it also includes the United States. I think we need to put forth additional money for supporting Ukraine. It doesn't have to be as much as the Europeans are asked to provide, but it should be some. We should all toughen sanctions, for example, making sure we all have the same ships that are on our watch list so that we can make sure Russia doesn't avoid and evade the oil price cap that's been placed on their global petrochemical and hydrocarbon shipments. So we can try to clamp down on the money that Putin's got available. I think that kind of pressure can ultimately make a difference on the battlefield and in his political standing, even though this draft call-up probably won't.
Yeah. Okay, Michael O'Hanlon with the Brookings Institution. It's always good to see you, Michael. Thank you so much. And up next, faith, finance, and purpose, all coming together this Saturday in the D.C. area. How one event is helping believers build a kingdom legacy. Welcome back. A major faith-fueled event is coming to the D.C. area this weekend, and it's aimed at helping Christians surge their lives God's way. Life Surge is a one-day event happening October 4th, at City of Praise Church in Landover, Maryland. Thousands are expected to go for a day of worship and to hear from speakers like Tim Tebow and Priscilla Schreier. The goal is to help believers discover their calling, grow financially through biblical principles, and make a lasting impact for the kingdom. And joining me now is Sean Marcel, president of Life Surge. Sean, welcome. Good to have you on with us this evening. So Life Surge, you guys do these events all across America. This is just this one happening outside of D.C. this weekend. You teach the 4 W's of kingdom impact. If you could, Sean, explain what those 4 W's are.
Sure, Jenna, thank you so much for having us, and we cannot wait to be in the D.C. area. So yeah, we really talk about 4 W's. It's worship, wisdom, work, and wealth. We believe these are areas that every believer has to think about and really engage to truly make an impact for God's glory in the marketplace and in their lives in general.
Yeah, the mission of Life Surge, as you guys have it, is to inspire, train, and equip others to surge their resources and influence for kingdom impact. Sean, if you could, just talk a little bit about the word surge, why it's so central to your mission.
Well, I think it's so important that we understand that God's given every one of us gifts and talents and abilities that he wants to anoint for his glory. And one of the greatest mission fields that we have is in the marketplace. God's not just calling people to the pulpit, but he's calling them to the marketplace. And so we believe that a surge is a sudden, powerful upward movement. And we really want that day to be a day of inspiration where they're awakened to just maybe fresh vision or maybe an old dream that sat dormant. God reminds them he's not done with us, that God wants to mobilize his church in a powerful way to be leaders in the marketplace for his glory. And that's what the day is all centered around. It's a very exciting, very inspirational day. But we do believe that oftentimes Christians are over-inspired and under-equipped. So we have built an incredible organization to not only inspire, but help people in their journey along that way.
Yeah, and we mentioned one of those W's is wealth.
Yes.
It's a time when a lot of people are feeling a little concerned about money. Things maybe tighter than they used to be. Can you talk about how Life Surge teaches people to use what God's given them to steward it well?
Yeah, and well, you said the right word, steward. I believe that God gives us resources. Number one, even with all of our troubles and even all of our struggles we have in America, we're still in the greatest nation on the planet. And with the responsibility of living in a free society where we can go out and create, the stewardship issue becomes front and center for all believers. Many people think about money and they think, well, prosperity gospel, or other people are concerned about money and they have more of a poverty mentality as it relates to money. But we really believe it's a stewardship issue. When God places resources in the hands of his people, he wants us just to be faithful. And we believe that we've been given great opportunity in this country to create, to multiply. But we also want to be able to be focused on kingdom impact. When God blesses us, we should be an outflow of his goodness to other people, because our communities, the world needs generosity. These people that are generous and understand that their gifts and their talents produce resources. But when they do, we can steward those in a way that makes an impact in people all across our communities, around this country, and around the world.
Yeah, I love that. You know, as you think about this weekend, Sean, and getting ready, what is it that you're hoping, if there's just maybe one thing that you hope people walk away with, what would that be?
I would want people to recognize that God has a call in their life, that God has given them those gifts and talents. And if they can go and engage the marketplace, surrender to the Lordship of Jesus Christ, full of the Holy Spirit, that God can use them in ways they never thought possible. Some of the greatest voices in the body of Christ will be on that stage.
Yeah.
But really, it's more than that. It's coming together as a community of people. And hopefully, every person that leaves that room that day will walk out knowing they have a firm, solid relationship with Jesus, fully surrendered to Him and His plan for their life.
Yeah. Okay, Sean Marcel of Life Surge, we love what you guys are doing. Thank you for coming on, and the best to you this weekend. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Jenna. Okay, we got
Coming up, the dark side of AI chatbots. Are they giving kids harmful advice? What parents need to know next. White-collar jobs are feeling the heat from AI, and young workers are taking notice. Instead of desks and degrees, more Gen Zers are picking up tools and heading into the trades. A new survey shows 77% want careers that are hard to automate. Plumbing, electrical work, carpentry, all seeing a rush of new interest. While AI threatens jobs in tech, accounting, and data, some schools even have wait lists for hands-on training programs. For many, working with your hands now means better job security and a solid future. Well, AI is also raising new concerns for kids. That's because more and more young people are turning to AI-powered chatbots with their emotional struggles. Too often, kids are on the receiving end of emotional manipulation, sexually suggestive conversations, and dangerous advice. Charlene Aaron explains.
Chatbots are digital characters that can text and talk with users of any age. Unfortunately, experts have found this latest advance can also respond with disturbing suggestions, including violence, sexually explicit conversations, and ideas about self-harm. In today's tech-savvy world, artificial intelligence is quickly spreading and connecting. 72% of America's teenagers say they have used chatbots as companions, and nearly 1 in 8 have sought emotional or mental health support from them. This has led 44 state attorneys general to push tech giants Meta, Google, Apple, and others for stronger guardrails to keep kids safe. According to the National Association of Attorneys General, a recent lawsuit against Google alleges a highly sexualized chatbot steered a teenager toward suicide. Another suit alleges a Character.ai chatbot intimated that a teenager should kill his parents. The family of 16-year-old Adam Rain recently sued OpenAI for wrongful death, claiming that ChatGPT lured their son to rely on its product for companionship and eventually led him to take his own life. Christian therapist Sissy Goff has seen similar examples in her own practice.
I have a girl that I'm counseling who has gotten into a very sexual relationship with kind of this movie star that she has a crush on, that the chat bot has now mimicked this movie star. And what we know about AI is it mimics the tone of our conversation and is sometimes originating. And so kids can get into these intense relationships that feel really intimate, forgetting that it's a robot that they're talking to because it sounds just like a human being.
Following Rain's death, OpenAI acknowledged deficiencies in safeguarding kids. The company recently announced changes on its platform related to self-harm, including expanding interventions to more people in crisis, making it even easier to get help from emergency services, and strengthening protections for teens. Dr. Anna Ord, Dean of Regent University's School of Psychology, says children and teens can easily fall prey to such technology.
We have to remember that at that stage of development, their brains are still forming, right? So our kids and our teens are very vulnerable to all this new technology, especially when it produces this graphic violence or sexual content. Highly disturbing content.
She also points out that chatbots have no moral compass and can mislead kids.
If a child asks a question about self-harm or something from an adult can discern and not go that route But the chatbots are built to please, they're built to be user-friendly, so they will produce content that the person asks for without a filter thinking about this, is this the right thing to do?
Goff fears that at a time when young people are struggling with mental health issues such as anxiety and depression, chatbots will only deepen the problem.
I've been counseling kids for 30 years, and I'm seeing more social anxiety than I've ever seen. And so I think the danger is they will isolate further and further when we get more concerned about depression.
Meanwhile, Common Sense Media put out this warning about companion platforms such as Character.ai, Nomi, and Replica, saying, these systems pose unacceptable risks for users under 18, easily producing responses ranging from sexual material and offensive stereotypes to dangerous advice that, if followed, could have life-threatening or deadly real-world impacts. In the end, Dr. Ord highlights that while AI is here to stay, the need for parents to talk with their kids about it is greater than ever.
Enter their world, know what they're struggling with, so that you or a trusted adult can be their first stop when the problem arises, not AI chatbot. And finally, I would just say, model real connection for the kids. Show them the richness of family, friendships, church community.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thank you, Charlene. And still ahead, a day celebrating Bible translators around the world. That's next on Faith Nation. Finally tonight, a day recognizing the critical work of Bible translators around the world. Today is known as Bible Translation Day, honoring the work of translators in making the Bible accessible in different languages. The tradition began in 1966 with a congressional resolution proposed by William Townsend, the founder of Wycliffe Bible Translators. Townsend proposed celebrating the day on the feast of St. Jerome, the first translator of the whole Bible. Today, the Bible is translated into more than 770 different languages. And of course, thank you to all of the translators past and present. All right, that's going to do it for Faith Nation this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Have a great night.